What is up, everyone? Boy, it didn't let me know if we've gone live yet or not, but I'm assuming we are live. So, OMI's token price is down, and it's massively down, and it would be normal for people to be worried. And should they be worried? Well, that's exactly what I want to talk about. I remember what my first market cycle was like. And I had a lot of hopes and fears behind all the money I'd put into crypto. And I understand that I was only using money that I could afford to lose. But I'm also a human being and I did not want to lose it. And so it was heavy on my mind. Like, did I make some wrong decisions here? What's happening? Especially as some other things were pumping while what I was holding wasn't. And I'm recognizing that same pattern, right? I'm in a different position now. I held through the bear market. A lot of those things I was worried about did tremendously well. It was just a delayed run up. And my thesis that that's what would happen was correct, but I can't say it wasn't hard to hold strong because the temptation was to roll into things that were hot and moving. It's another thing I want to talk about today. But I invited a special guest, one that just has an amazing insight and tends to pick a lot of winners in the past and go heavy in those that have done well. And he went heavy into Pokemon card investments way before most everyone else and did exceptional on that. He went heavy into Tesla way before everyone else, did really well with that. And you know him in the OMI community. I like to think he's the top G of the OMI and Veve family. Everyone welcome the real Randy Chavez. Thank you so
Hi,
much,
guys.
Randy.
Thank you so much for joining. I'm the real Randy Chavez. I'm going to say hello to Dashi. Oh, hello, Dashi. So how's it going? Thank you for having me on. This is a little impromptu, but thank you. And shout out to the Pittsburgh Veve fam. They love me, and I love them as well.
Yes, love you joining us. Now, there are a lot of people very concerned, like, oh my gosh, OMI's down and blockchain gaming has run up. Some of them 3x and 5x, 10x, and crap. Oh my gosh, my OMI investment just went down by 30%. Should I, the question going through their mind is, should I sell and roll that into something that's hot? As you see this situation, what are your thoughts?
I get, so follow me on this. I promise there's a track. In New York Comic Con, I had a Vibes Man that was doing like a photo shoot and interview with me and Tamara Hannah. And during his interview with her, there was this guy with like the saxophone and this girl on the violin, and I just tipped him $5. Like, hey, can you play Canon? Canon in D. And they said, yeah, sure. And there's a couple people that stopped and enjoyed the music, but a lot of people didn't. And they kind of kept going. They kept walking, and I felt very sad that they couldn't appreciate this amazing, beautiful piece of art that has been played for centuries. And like my sadness grew for them. And in that same way, my sadness kind of grows for people that can't see past the here and the now. And they don't look more than a week, 2 weeks ahead. I mean, in the last year, for Veve, which obviously the OMI token is attached to, they've had amazing partnerships. Most recently is Funko, the one that they had announced. They have more licenses coming. They just announced Avatar. I think there's the top 10 highest grossing movies of all time. We have 9 of them on the app. Those licensors. The only one we don't have yet is Titanic. So the trajectory in which the app is going and the token as well, at least as far as developments, we now have the ability to soft stake it, and then in order to get MCP points, and they're talking about bronze tickets, that's next on the docket, then OMI to gem, and then Veveverse, you're going to have in phase 1, OMI to accessory. So there's a lot that's coming, but people are ignoring that, or they have selective cherry picking data, and they're just, oh, what's shiny? The next thing that's shiny is just what's already. There's one person on my chat the other day that it was a decent amount of OMI. I think sold like 30 million OMI and bought Solana. Now Solana is in the top 10 and it's done really well. It's done like a 8 or 9x the last couple months. It's already done an 8 or 9x. Could it go another 5x over the next 2 years? Sure. It could even go beyond that. But it's already done an 8 or 9x. And to go and sell one thing at a loss in order to chase the green candles, I feel really, really bad for those people. Now that's one person, but that one person, if you extrapolate that out, maybe is a representative of, dozens of people. Because, it's hard to go. I think, who was it? Simple Plan said it best. There's like, nobody wants to be alone in the world. Well, nobody wants to go and watch their friends, other investments go up to the moon while they're kind of staying stagnant. So I get it, but this is why, I quote you a lot where you say like 95% of people won't make it in crypto, because this is exactly what happens. They sell at a loss or something, they go and they chase those green candles. That'll likely go down at some point. It might not, but not financial advice. I've only bought more in the last couple months. In the next couple weeks or the next month or so, I'll buy even more, hopefully getting to 180 million, because I know it's coming. And again, publicly, we all know what's coming. So, yeah, that was really long-winded. Sorry about that.
Some would say that was easy for me to follow. Maybe it's because told in story form, and I love stories. So some would say, well, aren't you just like a perma bull? Don't you know when to throw in the towel? Don't you know that OMI is a dead coin and a dead project, and that you should throw it into something that's got some excitement and movement?
There's a Elon Musk interview from, I don't know, like 3 years ago or something, and he was going about, I mean, his stock move, and that's another thing I made money in was Tesla. His stock stayed stagnant for 6 years, from 2013 to 2019. It was like 6.5 years where you could have put, $100,000 in 2013 and you'd still have about $100,000 6 years later. But then, over the next course of X amount of years, it became one of the most valuable companies, in the world. And somebody's asked him like, hey, when do you give it in? Like when do you throw in the towel? And it's just never. I won't ever give up. And that lives rent free in my head forever. If you have, like Stan Lee said, if you have a good idea, if you know something's a good idea, don't let some idiot talk you out of it. And again, if I ever go and I am not trusting, or I don't trust my own instincts, I'll try to trust people whose instincts I trust more than my own, like yours, like Sanjay's, like Dr. Stuff's, Dr. Profit's, people that are older, smarter, and more experienced, especially in crypto. That just makes sense. So if I ever feel, oh yeah, kind of a rough day, I just look at you guys who you're doing like, okay, spirit's lifted, I'm good.
I did a bunch of that in 2017. I came in midway through the bull market, and I knew better, but I couldn't help myself anyway. And I would sell something I was holding on to that wasn't moving to roll it into something that just went 3, 4, or 5x. And the assumption was, well, if it's hot, it's going to keep going up. And what just didn't always happen, but more often than not, exactly what happened was I bought into something right before a retracement. And guess what? That thing that I had been patient on and holding on to ran. And I was just like, not only did I lose money, I sold out of something that then went 5x. And it happened to me multiple times. And I was like, okay, so clearly this isn't a good strategy. I think it worked out pretty well for me once, and like 3 or 4 times it worked out like the opposite way for me. And I was like, okay, new idea. I'm going to take investments that I believe in, and I'm going to hold them until I'm right or wrong. That has worked out really well for me. I know a lot of people know my Axie Infinity story, but they don't really know it. They're starting to feel it, because Axie Infinity, after I bought the land in January 2019, and I made the mistake of telling my wife, and that's why this is so visceral in my mind, because every month she'd be like, how's your land in Axie doing? Bad. What's it down to? I don't know, 2,000. Oh, are you going to sell? No. Well, why aren't you going to sell? What if it goes to 0? I'm screwed. It goes to 0. What's it worth this month? About $1,800. and so on and so on, all the way down to about 1,000 to 800. And it sucked because I told her, because guess what then happened? She had fun teasing me, and she's lighthearted and she's a sweet gal, and she wasn't trying to be fun, but she was legitimately scared, because when it goes down, in her mind, it was like, what if it goes to zero and you lose everything? Better to keep $1,000. Then as the bull market came, the narrative had a chance, started to take off, went back up to what I paid for it. That was a happy day for me. I'm like, yes, it's worth what I paid for it. That's so amazing. I hope this would happen one day. And then it went 100x over the next 3 months. And I was just blown away. I was like, oh my gosh. And then I sold. And then went another 30x from there. And I'm like, well, shoot.
Yeah,
But
there's
what I do know is a lot of people that bought when I did, they all washed out. Maybe they made the mistake of telling their wife or something, and their wife's like, baby, you should harvest your money before there's nothing left. And when did they sell? At the bottom. And they missed out on wild gains because they didn't give it time enough to play out. But I do evaluate what is the likelihood that the company fails, because if I reach a position based on just seeing massive earthquakes in the company, that the company might fail, at that point I do sell. But that is the only time I give up on a position, because I hold it till it dies, or I see imminent failure coming. So is there anything you're seeing that could be imminent failure of Veve within the next 3 months? Because I'm not seeing anything that would actually cause imminent failure in Veve.
Not anything that the Veve company would do, not anything that is, I mean, even now, I feel like we're getting more to the lines of, okay, the SEC might be feckless about certain things, but they're not incompetent. And at the end of the day, I think everyone is on Team America. And if you want to go and have successes in America, yes, sure, a lot of governments are corrupt, and they're going to want to get their piece. Like look at the Nancy Pelosi tracker over on Twitter that tracks all of Nancy Pelosi's trades, or her husband's trades, and like they're going to do things that are eventually good for America. They're just going to get their piece first. And do I know every politician does this? No, it's likely not a ton of them. But when you're making 179,000 a year, and then suddenly you're worth tens or hundreds of millions, likely something there. But I think now that once was a big fear, regulation is going to come in, they're going to outlaw NFTs, and they're going to outlaw, because of they'll prop it up as a big thing to fear. Oh, this is a scam. People are getting their life savings drained. We're protecting you. We're passing this so we can save the grandmas. Now, obviously, that realize this is a multi-trillion-dollar opportunity between crypto and NFTs and all this. They're thinking, okay, this is the way technology is going. Other countries are obviously doing it. So I think that the regulation part that could have potentially, 5 years ago, they could have said like, hey, we're shutting this down. We're nipping this in the bud. I don't think that anyone's really fearing that anymore, at least not to that extent. I talk to David and Dan multiple times a year. I mean, just at these events, we see him, and every now and then he comes on stream. If I saw anything different, if the thesis of the company has changed, or if the trajectory was, let's say if they lost a couple licenses, or they lost more than they gained, I'd be like, okay, that's a little concerning. Why, and how many other licenses could jump ship. If there was another big player that was outperforming Veve, and we were losing licenses to them, it's like, okay, and maybe I might try to make arguments like, well, you can still go up as number two. Not everyone has to be number one. And I think that for a lot of other companies out there, that just because you're not number one, just because you're not Veve, doesn't mean you can't make money. I think they can. But anything to make it detrimental, solar flare and electricity gets, electronics get shut off for for months. Sure. But outside of that, I would say we're pretty safe.
It's fair to say that if the sun blew up, OMI would be screwed. And in that situation, we would have bigger problems to worry about. So yes, like imminent failure, like one of the things I worry about in bear markets is the company I'm invested in going to survive? And sometimes I actually thought Axie Infinity, there was 4 strategic points where I was really worried it would fail. And I was like, well, I'm just going to hold on anyway. Shoot, it's down so much. What would I really get? What, $1,000 from it now? Sorry, I'm stubborn enough. I'm just going to hold it to zero, or I'm going to be right on this. And it wasn't my only one I did that. I was dollar cost averaging into Cardano because I felt like the fundamentals were strong, but everyone was calling it Cardaleno because they were delayed. Win Cardano, win exchanges, like this same kind of statements you hear on OMI all the time. But I looked at Cardano and I was like, the fundamentals are still strong. So I dollar cost averaged more in. Also, like other projects, that's what I've done. So when I look at Veve and I think, okay, I love what I'm seeing out of David Yu. I love what I'm seeing as far as his character, who he is. The trust that people in the industry have towards him is gigantic. The relationships are so strong. And so I like that. They've created a community. Not that some in the community aren't frustrated, because everyone gets frustrated in the bear market when the price isn't going the right way. It's frustrating if you have it programmed into your phone so you can see exactly what your portfolio is worth, and you come in every morning and it's lower and then it's lower and it's lower. And many people get shaken out at that point. And that is exactly what gets shaken out at the bottom. That's why there is a bottom that's so low, is because people capitulate and they get scared and they sell right at the bottom. In fact, we had a bottom that was lower a few months ago. You know what coincided with that bottom? Major channel that had often talked positively about Veve and OMI all of a sudden ran some videos that is OMI dead, and like was very negative about OMI and we're throwing in the towel. We're done right at the bottom. You know what happened after that? Came back up. But, you know, now we're having what we call in the industry a double bottom, which is actually very frequently. I'll be surprised if this current low goes below the previous low. Oftentimes it won't. And then what usually happens after that? Almost always double bottom is in it. And it goes up massively from there because the base is then in. So there's some more people that are going to get shaken out by this. All we can do is say, look, I don't have a magic crystal ball to know that it will go well in the future, but the odds are really good because OMI is one of the only projects in crypto right now that is generating those kind of revenues. I mean, most crypto projects are actually running bleeding red every single month, massively, with very little money coming in. Why do you think Recur folded? Why do you think a bunch of other projects folded? So just bleeding red. And here Veve is with all kinds of revenues coming in. And so their chance of failing in the next 3 months are much lower than most any crypto companies I can see. So
You said their chance of failing in
the next bull market, I don't see why they wouldn't. I can't see a legitimate reason why they could fail in the next 9 months.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, but it's scary, right? So some of what I wanted to share today is I have a few things I want to talk about. Now, Paul from Definity frequently joins me on Wednesdays, and it's extremely valuable what I've learned from Paul over time. And one of the things that he really helped me understand is the inverse relationship between the US dollar and money that flows into assets such as stocks and crypto. And so as the US dollar, or you can see it on the charts as the DXY, the US dollar index, as it goes down, usually money flows into crypto. And it had quite a tear here. When did that coincide with? Well, the bottoms of most projects in crypto. Now, it's been going down. It had this amazing pump up here, but it seems to have formed a double top. So top one, top two, and probably has a big downside to go. That will also coincide with probably the Fed, the US Fed will start reducing interest rates next year, which usually further drives money out of the dollar into other assets. Hold on.
Salud.
So these bright lights, maybe I need to put my shades on. So yes, it's been coming down, and we're probably going to see a lot of money flowing back into stocks, but more importantly for me, crypto. I don't hold a lot in stocks because they just don't have the volatility that's interesting enough to me. I like crypto because the total investment cycle from top to the next top is usually about 4 years. I've never seen an asset class have such a short cycle with such high volatility. And that's why I moved out of real estate completely. And don't get me wrong, I love real estate, but crypto is much more interesting as crypto unlocks what we call Web3, or things the internet couldn't do before that it can now, such as how could you have digital collectibles on the internet and have it verifiable that you actually own the item and that you have the legitimacy to sell the item. That's something that we needed blockchain and cryptographic encryption to really accomplish. And now that those are there, companies like Veve could exist. All right. Another thing is other projects such as Myria have been running. And I like Myria a lot. In fact, when Myria was way down here, I was like, look at this pattern. Oh my gosh, at some point it's going to break to the upside, most likely. And when it does, it can go on a tear. And it broke to the upside. And I really like the token price. And I really like Myria. And I think even at this price, Myria is still undervalued. However, a lot of people think, gosh, blockchain gaming is running, so I'm going to sell out of OMI here to roll into Myria up here. And I take the reverse approach. I've got some sell orders in here and here because I think this is going to break to the upside. I might actually change some of my sell orders. This pattern, the chances are this is going to break further to the upside. And when it does, it might go a distance equal to that. So it might go to, like, say, 7 cents. And so actually a lot of my sell orders are starting in just below 6 cents and going right up to here. And so if that happens, it'll unlock a wave of liquidity, which I'm then going to roll into OMI. Now, I don't know certainly for certain that it's going to go up. And I'm tempted to sell some of the Myria I was accumulating at these prices and take profits and already roll it into OMI. It's just the chances are high enough that this might break to the upside that I'm just going to leave it in place and play those chances. Although OMI at these numbers, I'm telling you, I love, what is that, 0006? I think of it as 0.06 cents because I can't function with so many zeros. The number just gets hard to wrap my mind around. But if I think 0.06 cents, it helps me picture better what that value is. At that price, I get so excited at OMI down at this price, right? And that is a really juicy price. But people see these numbers and what do they think? Oh my gosh, it's just going to go to zero. What often happens is a double bottom. So a low here, which is when, isn't this when Paul Barron network called OMI or dead? Thank you, Paul.
Yeah.
Thank you, Paul, for all the people that you fudded out of Veve and OMI right at the bottom. Right at the bottom. I will not let you forget that. And even though I like Paul Barron, that was a massively bad call. And hopefully he doesn't continue making bad calls. He then fudded on ADA at the bottom. So, Paul, I'm starting to see patterns from you I do not like. A lot of things from you I really like. The most professional crypto studio in crypto by far. But I'm not liking that he's fudding out of good projects at the bottom. We'll see if I'm right. Maybe he's right. I would give it like a 2% chance he's right. I'm pretty certain that I'm
very
right.
generous with that. I give him much less.
So yeah, Pink Panther says, I sold some of my gaming profits and rolled into OMI. We are live and we have lots of good comments. And I do want to get back to you. If you do want to get upped on the priority, if you do throw a super chat in, we will get to you faster. We will try to get to as many of the comments as we can. Cool. That was some of my thoughts on the gaming, right? Somebody brought up that Bumper's been on a tear. Yeah, Bill Gardner. I love Bill Gardner.
Bill, my hero.
Paul Barron. But you did spell it right. And I know you know who he is, but that is the funniest joke I've heard today. So thank you for that, Bill. Yes, who's Paul Barron? Exactly. Yeah, people salvage their credibility, but like Bumper, their token released, and it had gone all the way up to 10, almost 11 cents. And so when it hit these numbers, guess what was happening? It hit 2.7 cents, and people are like running scared, and they're like, "Oh my gosh!" And I was like, "I'm buying more." And people are like, oh, are you scared?" And I'm like, "A little bit, sure." You always like get a little bit nervous buying at the bottom. Anytime you're buying at the bottom, it doesn't matter how much experience you have, you do get a little bit nervous. But then they joined us for another interview, and then after the interview in our private Discord, they joined us there. And oh my gosh, after that, I was like, oh my gosh, my certainty ran up to like 99%. It's just, look, a lot of times when people release their mainnet, people buy the rumor leading up to the mainnet, and then they sell the news when it actually happens. So then you get this big fall off, and that's exactly what happened. And notice it formed a double bottom because it previously gone to 2.1 cents, which is, to the private Discord community, I rated Bumper as one of my top underpriced tokens to them in December. And I said Bumper and Spores. Spores then went 10x. Bumper then went 5x. And then they both had a retracement, which is frequent that they had, and create a double bottom. Notice it didn't go quite as low. This is the same pattern that we're looking at with Veve or with OMI. And we don't know 100% that we won't see a double bottom or that it won't go lower here. It's just, I suspect that it won't. And do I pray that it does? Actually, I wish that it would, because I don't see any reason why OMI is really going to fail. And so do I want the token to be more expensive or less expensive? I want it to be way less expensive because I haven't caught up to Randy yet. And I frequently look at my portfolio and say, what could I salvage to buy more OMI at these prices? And one of my principles is I just don't sell projects when they're massively down to roll into something else that's massively down. And a lot of my projects, some of them doesn't mean I'm upside down. They're just massively down from previous levels. And so I only sell things when they're up to roll into things that I think are still undervalued. So I have been able to sell a few things to buy more OMI, but trust me, I haven't missed that Randy and Jordan have bigger positions than me, and I'm super excited for them because I believe a lot in OMI. Do I love it? Yes, I love it. I love that they have bigger positions than me because it pushes me to like try to keep up with these guys. I did go really heavy in the Veve market rather than OMI when OMI's price was high. I went massive into the Veve collectibles. And at one point, my portfolio, when that January run up, what was that, a year and a half ago? My vault value was like 680,000. I was like, sweet. And I told Dr. Steph, I was like, if I were completely unemotional about Veve, I would take 100% of profits out at this price and wait till I could withdraw that money. Whoa. But I love it too much that I can't be unemotional about it. So I did put some things up for sale and sold some of my Todd McFarlane's and a bunch of my Spider-Man comic books and my Marvel #1 comic books that I'd been picking up for 2 gems a piece. I sold some of those at the top, but I was like, I love these Veve collectibles so much. I would rather just hold on for the longer term because though it's high now, I suspect the future is going to be much brighter.
Yeah, that's incredible. God, can't imagine you can go back. MC1s for 2 gems. I think they were going for like 600 at one point.
Yeah, I sold some for 700. So I was like, oh my gosh, that's 350x. And the only reason I stopped accumulating is I forgot to keep, because you can only sweep the floor before they're no longer anymore at like $2, right? So I'd sweep the floor all the way to 4, and then I'd wait a day, and I'd sweep the floor all the way to 4, and then I'd wait a day. And I was like, yes, somebody keeps selling these. This is the greatest thing ever. And then I just forgot to keep doing it. Right. And I was like, oh no, why did I stop buying? I ended up with like 50 or 60 amazing Spider-Man #1s and 50 or 60 Marvel #1s. and like had spent like really low numbers getting them, like not very much money to get them all. And then I just forgot to keep sweeping the floor. And I was like, that was so dumb. Why did I do that?
Need to have a reminder in your calendar. It goes off every day.
Yeah, there's something else I'm sweeping the floor on constantly. It's in the course. If you're on my channel, I've got the link in it below. It's a little mini course on 2 super undervalued projects that I made. So the parent company that launched these projects launched another one in 2020. I put $1,100 into it, went to over 100x, and well over 100x. And so they've since launched 2 other projects, but because they've launched since the bear market, their price has only gotten savage to levels it should never hit. It is top intellectual property, which one of the reasons I invest in Veve collectibles, because Batman, first Batman on the blockchain, I was like, how does this go poorly? Even when I covered it in March of 2020, and a lot of my audience got really mad because I'd only covered mostly crypto projects to then. They said, what the hell, Rain? Why are you covering this stupid NFT stuff? And I was like, well, I'm here for return on investment. And I don't see how this Batman doesn't do really well. So actually some of them stopped following. That's cool. Or they just stopped watching my videos. That's cool, because Batman went 200x for there. And I was like, you know, this company Veve, I was pronouncing it Veve at the time because it was so new. I wasn't able to find a single other YouTube video on it. So I had to guess as to how to pronounce their name. Veve is what I was calling it. Has top intellectual property, and firsts are a really big deal with top intellectual property. So yes, this other project, it's 80% off if you use the code that's in there. I think it makes it $16 for the course. Well worth it. Nobody's talking about these 2 projects. Nobody's paying attention to them. By sharing it with you, I am pumping the floors on myself because I am still actively buying these. Do I love pumping the floors on myself? No. Hate it. But what I do love is, and I don't make much money, $16 per course. What that is about is some investment from you so that this knowledge is valuable, because I think there's unequal risk to return on these 2 projects that nobody's paying attention to, and nobody in the crypto space is talking about them right now. And yes, I'm losing far more money by sharing this through a course than what I'm making on the $16, because I continue sweeping the floors on these. And I so far haven't forgotten to keep sweeping the floors. Cool. Kind of like what I was doing with Marvel #1 and Amazing Spider-Man #1. And nobody's talking about these. They've kind of gotten forgotten. Cool. That's cool. That's what I like to accumulate. OMI, what's funny is OMI hit so much a place in people's heart that nobody's forgetting about OMI. Just some people have gotten bitter like an ex-wife and they can't forget it. So they just FUD it every day.
Yeah. It's only the ones that you love that you get super angry about. Because if it was just like another investment, just like whatever, it'd be like, okay, I'll sell, I'll move on. But it's because I think they love them, that they're big mad, and so they come. But they'll come back. Hopefully, it's not after they've already sold everything and they come back and the price is like 5x, but that'll likely happen as well.
Saw G said I bought the course already, some stuff, Rain, and then he said bought some stuff from those projects as well. Haha. Yes, nice. I have been loading up, and it sucks because there's so much good right now that I hate not buying more OMI, but I can't hate it too much, because like these projects should not be at the prices that they're at. And it's just like, I just feel like I'm buying Amazing Spider-Man comic books at $2 again, and Marvel #1's at like $2. It gives me the same feeling. When I was doing that, a little part of me said, what if you're wrong? And then I was like, it's Marvel #1 from like whatever, 1930 something. How could this be wrong? It is some of the, well, what if digital comics don't really take off? I know, but it's Marvel #1 for $2. The comment, how does this go wrong? And I was like, I can't see a way that this does go wrong, so I'm just going to keep doing it.
Yeah, there's some things that I feel like are, well, I guess now they're gated now, that are, it's like Powerpuff Girls, like even if it's not like a Donnie, he's infamous. Even something like Bubbles, Bubbles is a fan favorite. There's 600 of her. It's like $1,000. And there's somebody that posted on Twitter the other day. I think it was Harris Asked, got like 58 bubbles. It's like, oh my God, you've got like 10% of the entire supply of that. People get, I feel like people just kind of live in their fish bowls, and they're like, oh, most people, they'll make 75, 80 grand a year, whatever, and their friends and people they know will make 75, 80 grand a year. So to go and spend like an entire year's worth of supply on, a cartoon character, like people are, um, they just don't, I feel like they don't think that exists. And I saw that in Pokemon as well. A lot of people that were like, yeah, I got an extra 20, 50 bucks, or maybe a couple $100 a month. So when somebody goes and spends like 4 or 5 figures on cards, they're like, that's stupid. And, not realizing that there are super big people that'll pay those types of prices, and they won't might not get it.
Money, and they won't even blink at it. They'll be like,
But,
they'll tell their, and when you get to a certain level of wealth, and I didn't understand this till I saw it, that some people relish in the price that they paid for it. So the more they pay for it, the better it is for their story. So when they buy a Charizard and they paid $2 million for it, and you're like, oh man, they could have bought that at 2 years prior for like 100,000. They don't want the 100,000 story. They want the $2 million story.
Oh.
And I know that's hard for you to wrap your mind around because you're not in that position yet. But when they get into that position, that money has less value to them than the story they just created for that $2 million. Why? Because their friends have all kinds of social flexes too. And so this is a social flex that's unique, that they can brag to their friends who have Bugattis, who have like crazy stuff. And they don't want to say, I bought a Charizard for 100,000 and then I turned that into 2 million. For them, that's a boring story. They just made 50,000 the last 2 minutes from their oil money. They don't care about buying something at 100,000 and flipping it for 2 million. That's an uninteresting story. Paying 2 million for the Charizard and having it in their vault that they can show their friends, that's an interesting story to them. And I couldn't wrap my mind around that. Why? Because I came from a poor family. That was not my family's experience. But when I saw that, I was like, oh, I'm really glad that exists. I don't play in that ball field yet. I mean, fully. I mean, they end up buying some of my stuff. I think about who bought some of my Axie Infinity land. Can't say I know who it was because it was on the marketplace. But like, yeah, somebody paid crazy prices for stuff. But yeah, I don't play in those ball fields yet. I hope to soon. We'll see how this bull market goes. But really, they're like, a lot of them are in the billions of dollars, right? They play in a league that most people don't understand because it's not the top 1%, it's the top 0.1%. And when they are interested in the stuff that you're buying, oh boy, prices hit whole new meanings that you didn't realize they could get to. That is who I'm hoping. I hope Saudi wealth and other like sovereign wealth funds and everything get interested in Veve collectibles. Because if that's the case, the big Veve collectibles, like you think prices were high in January of last year, no, they'll be like child's game, when all of them are trying to flex the better mint numbers that they have on, say, Walt collectibles, then yeah, those prices will go crazy. And I don't even own a Walt yet. I own most everything else, but I haven't bought a Walt yet.
I mean, David did say on my stream the other month that he's going to go to Dubai. I wonder what he's going to be doing there. I mean, you don't just go to Dubai just for, the heck of it. Likely, if you're going to go there, you're probably going to go for a reason. But we'll,
he's just going for the good weather, maybe. So there's lots of places you could go for the good weather. You don't go to Dubai for the good weather.
So you mentioned the bull market, and I don't know if you saw Kathy Wood's declaration or her post before on X. Did you?
No.
She said, like, well, now that the ETFs are about to be approved, she has like a new price prediction on Bitcoin this next bull market of 600,000. I think that's a little overzealous, and it probably shouldn't go there. But like you say, sometimes things go where they shouldn't, and even if she's overshooting by double of what it would be, okay, 300,000 Bitcoin, yeah, I think that's very possible. What's your take on her, and what's your take on predictions and what she's saying in the past and all that?
One of the smartest investment advisors ever, and she gets it wrong sometimes. And when you deal in the big boy space in the deep waters, it's impossible not to get it wrong. sometimes. It's just there's so many variables that you're trying to juggle. There's not just like 2 variables that you're juggling 70. And so she has a better track record than almost everyone. There's few people in this world that have a better track record than her. Let's just say it that way. And so, yeah, I take her very seriously. 600,000. I don't know all the variables that are building for a big wave are going to add up to, but it's more variables than I can comprehend the effects that it will have. I was sharing with Randy another bridge to institutional adoption that's coming very soon. You have spot ETFs, which will be another bridge to institutional adoption, another way that major funds can move money in very easily and quickly. Then you have what is one of the other big pillars? The change in accounting that recently got approved, that you had to count crypto as an intangible asset. So like a painting. So say you buy a Monet and you pay 500 million for it. And say then for some reason it gets valued down to 50 million. You have to write it down on your books, but you can't ever write it up. Even if somebody offers you 10 billion for it, you can't then value it on your books at 10 billion. So they required Bitcoin to be counted for the same way. I have no idea why. So if you're the CFO, you have to think about these things. So if you buy $10 million worth of Bitcoin, actually they usually deal in bigger numbers. So let's say $1 billion worth of Bitcoin, and it goes down to half before it then goes up. At the end of the year, you're not able to reflect it on your books at what the value is. You're reflecting at the lowest value it went to. And for eternity, until you sell that Bitcoin, you have to keep it at that value. So at the end of the year, when they produce their financial statements, they show that they bought the Bitcoin for $1 billion. They now have to reflect it for 500 million, even though the value might be 4 billion. And guess who gets fired that year? The CFO. Why? Well, he made a very smart decision that looked bad on the books. And they had to write this big explanation that though it looks like we took a $500 million loss, we actually didn't. And here's 5 pages of why, which most people don't read. And so he's looking for a new job, even though he made the company tremendous money. So this change in accounting will allow them to reflect it for its current value. And that was something that had to happen. That if you don't come from an investment banking or large financial institution background, you just weren't even aware of. I wasn't.
A lot of people thought that Tesla sold their Bitcoin because they had to write it down. And they're like, oh, see, this is what's happening. I was like, do you guys know what that means?
And the article was geared towards that to make it seem that way. And then other people took it up as Tesla just sold their Bitcoin. So then there's all these videos of Tesla sold their Bitcoin. And it's like they wrote it down in their books. That does not mean they sold it. That, in fact, if it says they wrote it down in their books, that if they had sold it, they would have said that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember that. And this is how a lot of people just get it wrong. They don't know. Just because somebody has a YouTube channel, that does not mean they know what they're talking about. I have been shocked to see a lot of people I know with YouTube channels, how they have not made good money from their own investments. Most all of them. And so the ones who do, I listen to very well. And the ones who don't, I'm just like, man, it might as well be CNN in my books. So.
You mean CNN that rugged their own NFT project? If you so to get the Stan super chat here, if you were head honcho at Okomi, what would be your game plan to push OMI, burn, promotion, Veverse, payment option, etc.?
So my game plan would not be to push OMI. My game plan would be to push user adoption of Veve. And I would build everything around getting more users to Veve, because that in turn is going to push OMI. Because most of the things that you can put some mechanisms on to push OMI are just short-term plays. You know what's really going to make OMI go crazy? It's called a bull market. I would gear everything towards improving the Veve user experience, towards getting more intellectual property, which is exactly where David is focusing his time, exactly on those things. So I wouldn't do anything differently than he's doing. They spent some time to ramp up their development team. I feel like that's going smooth because we've had a lot of things that was just, oh, it'll happen soon, it'll happen soon, it'll happen soon. And like nothing was coming off the pipeline like a year and a half ago. And I was like, I need to see start rolling out the pipeline. So they got some of that fixed and things have been rolling off the pipeline. So that's good. And so just continue to improve Veve tremendously. The only thing's going to take care of itself. Now, am I excited for bronze tickets? Yes, I think that utility is brilliant for it. That even might be crazy. That might do crazy things to OMI, but only if there's a lot of people using Veve and want to use a bunch of bronze tickets. So I think they're focusing most of their efforts on Veve, which is exactly where I would want them to. And some people get frustrated because they just want to see green candles on their OMI. I know that the big green candles that I'm looking for don't come till the bull run. So it's kind of like, don't wake me up on the plane ride until we're there, because I'll be like, is the bull run here? Like people say, oh my gosh, should I sell now? And it's like, even if it like 10x's from here and people are like, should I sell now? I'd be like, are we in the massive bull run yet? Is your person cutting your hair telling you how much they're making in crypto or how they're going to get into crypto? We're not in the bull run yet. When your grandpa is calling you, asking you how to get Bitcoin, we're in the bull run. That's what I'm looking for. And then I'm going to be like, okay, where is the OMI price? Oh, we're at 5 cents. Oh, we're at 10 cents. Okay. Oh, we're at 30 cents. Profits, take profits, take profits. And people are like, oh, you're selling too soon. I don't know. I don't know where the top is, but that's the indicators I'm looking for. And we're not there yet. So I'm definitely not going to sell at these lows. I don't see any reason why OMI's going to fail. And I'm not impatient. I did have the huge benefit before I came into crypto that I'd been doing other investment assets for almost 20 years. And so I don't get shaken out easily. That proved to be extremely valuable to me my first bear market, when there was a little part of me that was worried. And I was like, but I think this is right. So now I feel even more secure. And many of you, this is your first bear market, and it's normal to be worried. That's why I want to do this stream with Randy. Randy intuitively, I don't know how, just seems to get these things and has got them from a long time. I don't know if you were just born with this skill, Randy, but like for me, it actually took a while in observing markets. And I had been watching real estate markets since I was like 12. I don't know why. I've always been fascinated with making your money make money for you. So I had seen real estate markets do this thing 2 or 3 times by the time I even started in crypto.
I mean, I was born lucky. And I think luck definitely has a big play. I just happen to be lucky that I was born at the same time that Pokemon was really popular. I'm in that perfect age range. You got to catch them all. And so an unlucky thing. It wasn't until my appendix exploded, and I was like, oh, this is a second organ to kind of shut down on me in like 2 months. My life might be ending. I was like, well, what do I want to do before I die? I want to collect all the Pokemon cards I wanted when I was younger that I couldn't get because I was young and had no money. And then after enjoying the artwork and enjoying all these and having to hear from everyone in my life, you're finally making money and you're spending it on children's cardboard. And I was like, well, yeah, I like it. And then buying these things on eBay and noticing these patterns, I was like, wait a minute. There are some patterns here that nobody's recognizing because it's children's cardboard and you don't have mathematicians here. You don't have huge money here yet. It wasn't popular to be into Pokemon 10 years ago. You did not get you laid. Did not did not get you like a bill.
It did not. It will today, but it did not back then.
And
it's funny stuff. Who's
that's so great. I love him. So then when everybody started, kind of similar to what you were saying, like, oh, when you get your haircut and your hairdresser is giving you, asking you about Bitcoin. When people started getting those $1,200 checks, in 2020, and they were just like, oh, Pokemon, oh, I can, and I was like, okay, most everything what I bought is on like a 6x, except for trophy cards. And I've seen this game played before. People get what they like, and then a small substrat of those people, particularly with money, they'll go into trophy cards. But all these base set Pokemon cards had 6 decks, and trophy cards hadn't moved at all. Like, oh, I know exactly what's coming. So I think it's partially just having the ability to read the terrain, and again, we know what's coming. It's not like we're a fan of Bethesda or a fan of was the Vice City or San Andreas or Grand Theft Auto 6, and we have to wait 10 years for the game to come out, and we get an update maybe every 2 years. They literally laid the track on what's to come. They're literally going out. They've got what, 3 licensing conferences this year, and I don't know about you. I think we've had maybe 4 license. Like, you don't go to these licensing conferences to not get stuff done. They're likely there, and there's likely, I don't know, another couple dozen licenses that have not yet been announced. Just getting more people on board. They've hired. I think they've doubled the amount of people that they have working for them. Veve and Komi. So this is, and of course the FUD that goes along with that. Oh, this isn't actually workers for Veve. They're just contractors. Like, okay, well, if you're based in New Zealand and the people that work for you are not New Zealand, they're contractors. All these remote jobs that are happening, and they're listing new job listings all the time. So this is all public data. So if you know what's coming, this isn't even a hard call.
Yeah, it's hard to be patient through this kind of stuff, right? And so we see in the comments, like getting to some of these comments, before we even kicked off, there were a number of comments. So I want to give a shout out to people before we even got started. Mr. Planet Profit was the first to jump in here right after we posted it. Woohoo! As Simon said, I don't think I can listen live, but looking forward to this. Stay grumpy. That's funny. Wes is $5 OMI Moonboy talk incoming. Funny. Yes. Crypto Rain doesn't look happy there. Yeah, resting bitch face. Who knew? Why OMI go down when everything else pumping? That's really the bigger concern, and it freaks people the hell out, which is why I'm talking about this, right? So a lot of people don't have the background that I was lucky enough to have of 20 years experience. And with experience, you start to learn patterns, and pattern recognition is what I'm really good at. I once took the class to get into, or the course to get into business school, or the exam to get into business school. And I very near aced it. I could have gotten to Harvard or Stanford or whatever, would have had to borrow funds to go there, or I actually could have gotten a scholarship to pay for some of it. If not even all of it. I just was freaking poor university student, newly married, and 2 kids. And I was like, how do I even pay my freaking bills? I can't worry about Harvard. And it was just pattern recognition. I was like, I don't know that I'm smart, but I just learned the little patterns when I was studying for it. And these patterns were just so easy to see. It's just pattern recognition. That's really what investment is pattern recognition. And I noticed, like, the markets, the psychology of a market, how these same patterns continue to unfold. And it's amazing how many people, and I still see this every cycle, every crypto winter, people think that they're making novel cases for why this company is going to die right at the bottom, and they end up flooding at the bottom. Paul Karen's network did the same thing. And it's so sad because I really want to like him, because he does cover some things in really unique ways. And he is one of the channels with some of the best guests, and I love it when guests come on. But I will hold it over him for forever for fudding Veve at the bottom in the OMI, unless I end up wrong on this. But like I said, I'd give the chances about 2% right now.
You mentioned before about the intestinal fortitude to go out and say, like, oh, how do you have this? For me, it took, when I guess started with high risk lending. So after after the military, going into that, people were like, oh, what do you know about finance? Like, well, I was decent with money, and I know not to get a Dodge Charger at like 28% insurance like the rest of my military brethren did. I knew that was pretty stupid, and I don't know, good pattern recognition. Let me try it. And then slowly but surely, I actually did pretty well. And then and I'll fast forward the story a little bit. in high risk lending, when you're giving money to people that have like 550 or 600 credit, there's a lot of defaults. Like most people have like 20% default rates. I had less than a 1% default rate before the pandemic. So I was probably the best at this in the entire industry. But when I started giving money to these people were like, okay, you're making money on commissions. Don't give it to these people that are, that only have this credit. But people just look at that and okay, well, why do they have this credit? Do they have this credit because they don't pay their bills, or do they have this credit because they just got a divorce and they have 200 grand in aging receivables, and they have to use what credit they do have, Home Depot cards, to go and get materials for the next job and use the cash that they have to pay their people, and they need money that way. Well, 99% of it was the former, where yeah, they just don't pay their bills. But the diamonds in the rough of these people that have legitimately good businesses, they just had a rough couple months that made their credit go in the crapper. So I had a lot of people tell me, this is stupid, don't do that, don't waste your money. Made a lot of money. Same thing with Tesla. Oh, the Teslas go on fire. Elon Musk is bipolar. Don't waste your money on that. And then I remember my mom not talking to me for like a month after I told her to spend $80,000 on a Pokemon card. So throughout all these things, and maybe I'm conditioned the wrong way now, where I think, oh, everyone's against me, or everyone's against what I'm doing, and it might very well be a bad idea. But the last half a decade or
encourages you more.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, well, everyone's telling me not to do something.
When I am doing something that ends up being massively profitable, everyone tells me I'm doing something stupid.
Yeah,
and that pattern multiple times. Kind of like when I put 4,100 into this video game land for a video game that wasn't even built yet, and my wife could not wrap her mind around it. You put $4,100 into digital land in a video game that's not even built yet. Who does that? Oh, I do. But it's going to go great. How's that land doing? Terrible. How's it doing this month? Worse. And all of a sudden it did better. And now I get to give her a hard time all the time on that.
How long did it take for you to suddenly maybe not have haters, but how long did it take for people to trust you, for them to be like, oh, okay, he probably knows what he's talking about?
When I hit 1.5 million.
That's when it happened.
All of a sudden, right? And they're like, well, he's really smart, but nobody's talking about crypto, and I just think he just doesn't know what he's doing. He's crazy, and I don't know what he's doing. And then, like, they all heard from someone, hey, what's going on with crypto? I hear you're doing really well these days. Yeah, I just gave my job notice. Oh, cool. What can I buy? Watch my YouTube channel. I cover this stuff. Yeah, but can you tell me? No.
Are you gonna go and this next bull run, you're supposed to make a fudge ton of money. Are you gonna keep up with the YouTube channel and be like, I don't need it anymore?
Yeah, on some extent, yes, or I'll find somebody that will replace me. There's value in covering things when it's boring, and by value, there's not much money in it. My YouTube channel doesn't grow a lot. Why? Because I cover things when nobody's searching for them. So YouTube's algorithm hates me because they're like, oh, he's covering Cardano when nobody's searching for it, or he's covering this when OMI when the price is way down, so nobody's searching for it. And then later it goes crazy, right? And so you don't get, what's funny is if you want to grow a really big YouTube channel and make a lot of money with your YouTube channel, what you do is you find whatever's pumping and you make a video on that, on why it could 20x from there. And you will get way more subscribers, and the YouTube algorithm will push you out because people are watching the whole video. They're enthralled on this thing that just went 5x that they are buying right now, and why that will go another 20x from there, which would be a total of 100x. Or wait till something goes 20x and say why it will go 100x from here, and you will get massive subscriber growth, and you will get a really huge channel, and then you will have sponsors come in and want to pay you. Gosh, BitBoy's channel was making $1 million a month from their one sponsor. $1 million a month. If you're watching BitBoy for news on what to think about in crypto, you're in the wrong place. Now, if you're watching BitBoy for fun conversation, fantastic. That's what BitBoy can deliver really well to you. If If you're looking at BitBoy to help you do well with your crypto investments, let me ask you, does BitBoy do well with his crypto investments? Is it going to be able to help you do well with your investments? Is BitBoy rich? Well, he was, but that's because of revenues to his channel. So, is he someone I look to say, gosh, how do I get better at this? No. In fact, the incentives are all wrong for somebody who's a good investor to have a YouTube channel. Why? One of the best investors in crypto of all time is Crypto. He does still make YouTube videos. You'll notice he does little 5-minute videos as he's going about his crazy lifestyle because he's now a billionaire. He was driving taxi at like 22 as a college dropout when he started in crypto, like back in like 2015. He's now a billionaire. He has crazy houses in crazy parts of Dubai and stuff. And he does make video. He does leverage trading on Bitcoin. That's all he talks about. Now, that's not all he invests in. That's all he talks about. Most of his money does not come from leverage trading crypto. Most of his money comes from market analysis on lower cap coins that have done really, really well. That's where he makes his money. Covering that gets you no YouTube views. And there's not much money in that, though it can make your audience rich. And he used to cover that when I was brand new in crypto in 2017. In 2018, he stopped completely covering that and started covering Bitcoin leverage trades because not only does that grow your YouTube channel, but also you can make a whole bunch of money from Bybit or the other referrals. And so, cool. He is one of the smartest people in crypto. He just isn't covering what I wish he was covering. Do I hold that against him? No, I realize where the incentives are. There's not much money in holding a YouTube channel and covering stuff while it's cheap because you don't get a lot of views for that. The audience, when you do that, though, you create something that almost nobody is creating in crypto, which is an audience that has a better chance than average if you're covering and explaining why you think these are good, making the case to them, but then they can do further research themselves. My thought is you create the most informed audience in crypto, and that I don't know that somebody's ever tried, and that's what gets me up in the morning. Does YouTube pay me a lot? Well, I saw that, my revenues for this month are $195. I essentially pay that for my thumbnails. That's like nothing, right? Like, no, I don't make a lot from YouTube. YouTube pays terrible because covering things when it's boring pays terrible. And it doesn't grow your YouTube audience, and that's okay. We're trying an experiment here that I know these principles I talk about work. Randy intuitively kind of figured out these patterns himself too. And so will you in the audience? Well, the truth is some of you won't. Some of you won't make it. Some of you will get shaken out at the bottom. In fact, from some of the comments, some of you already have been shaken out at the bottom. And it's okay. Just watch and see if you're right or we're right. I don't have a magic crystal ball. I can't see the future. I don't know that the sun won't even blow up tomorrow. And if the sun blows up tomorrow, you were right. OMI failed tremendously. Now we're all dead, so we don't care because we're all dead. But you were right. OMI failed. Everything else failed too. Food supplies failed and we all died a cold death. But you're right. I was wrong. And, in the afterlife, if there is one, you'll be able to be like, see, Rain, you were so wrong. I was like, I was crap. I assumed that we would wake up and the sun would still come up the next day, and that assumption was flawed.
Yeah. Most likely our sun from the death would just be it getting bigger because it slowly gets bigger. So, well, yeah, the glaciers, no, we'd just be cooked. Oceans would melt. That would likely be it. Somebody mentioned in the comments that Elon Musk just posted a Cybertruck thing, and I'm so excited. I'm so heckin' excited. I've had these ordered for 3 years.
Yeah, I want one. I'm gonna wait a little bit. I can't justify it, but I will. I'm gonna be a little bit ridiculous because I realized sometimes people need to see the money in use to really believe it. Because even like Wes is saying, no chance that guy is not a billionaire. He seems like a coke addict. I can't say I know a lot about coke use. I've known 1 or 2 people that were high on it. Like I saw them, I was like, that's weird. And they're like, yeah, they use coke. I can't say I have a lot of experience with coke. So I don't know how to recognize it or not. He's super fit. He lives a lavish lifestyle, and he's pretty functional in that he doesn't even spend a lot of money. And if he says he's a billionaire, I totally believe him. I he just I have not seen one case that he's overstated things. And I used to watch his channel as he covers these projects, and he tries to be very specific on everything he does. Germans in general are that way, and I definitely noticed that in him. So if he said he was a billionaire, now keep in mind that was 2021, so maybe some of that's reversed since then. I don't know, but he has gotten bigger and bigger stuff even since then. So who knows? Um, that's why they were calling it PKN, Paul Karen Network. That's funny. Yeah.
So,
I mean, that's such a fitting name, Paul Karen. And I do like his channel. In fact, phenomenal studio and great guests. I will definitely give him that. And, I will call a spade. And when he gets it wrong, well, we'll see if he's wrong. Maybe he's right. In a year from now, we will know. He was right or Rain was right. And if Rain was right, he will not let Paul Barron live it down.
who's the next Paul Barron? And when I mean that, I don't mean that as somebody that is telling people to sell at the bottom or is, under the influence of someone else that's paying them. I mean, who's the next person that is professional, informative, and someone that you would want to watch, that you want to like?
Like a channel?
Yeah.
A crypto channel? Randy Chavez. People have their different skills, so the incentives are misaligned for somebody to inform the audience in crypto, because informing the audience has to do with talking about things when nobody's talking about it. There's not much money in it. The incentives are misaligned for that. Notice Crypto, he made his money. So when I was watching him in 2017, he invested in a whole bunch of ICOs, and I watched the prices go 700x from what he was talking about buying at the pre-sale and the ICO for. And he got it massively right. So some people still don't believe he's a billionaire. I can't say I know that for sure. I don't think he's lying when he talks about it, but maybe he is. Maybe he's overstating it. Maybe he was only worth 500 million. Boy, what an overstater. Shit. Only 500 million. He just doesn't cover the stuff I wish he covered because there's not any money in it. Notice Paul Barron. What is Paul Barron talking about? Solana. What's way up? Solana, right? And like he was fudding Cardano. So let's look at this. When was he talking about Solana is the most amazing? Well, let's look at this Solana. So yeah, when was he covering Solana? Here.
Oh,
when do you get the most traction and get a much bigger audience by covering things? When they pumped massively. Was he covering Solana here? No. Was he covering Solana here? No. So what is Paul Barron doing? What almost every YouTube channel does. Cover what's really hot, because that gives you the most traction to other people. When is he saying Solana's, going to go way up and it's the bullish, but make your own informed decision? Up here. Okay, cool. Let's look at Cardano. When was he saying Cardano was terrible and dead and stuff, right? Well, he actually said it again recently, but I think it was down here, right? So, and definitely down here. And then, yeah, it's just like, okay, Paul, I'm seeing a pattern emerge. So, whatever, right? Paul, you do your thing. But this is the misaligned incentives for most YouTube channels. It does not pay well to educate people. In fact, here's the thing. Can you even educate people on things you don't understand? Not really. So your ideal situation is somebody who makes really good money from investing, understands these patterns, and yet is willing to cover it on YouTube for almost no returns on it and give you that information and take all the critics and all, because everyone like fudge you when you're talking about things when they're cheap and they say you're stupid. So who's going to take all that press? Most people won't. They'll just trade and make money themselves, why go through the hassle? Now, there's some very specific selfish reasons why I decided to go through the hassle. First of all, I realized that I wanted better access to ask teams questions to see how viable I think the team still is when things are down. And what I realized is, as just an investor, they wouldn't even talk to me. But I was like, if I had a YouTube channel, even with like 2,000 subscribers, maybe I could get access to them. But it's just an investor. I could hold $100,000 in their project and I wouldn't be able to get past the Telegram admin. So in order to be able to get access to make better informed decisions, I have to create a YouTube channel at essentially a loss in order to get answers to questions that can help me make more informed decisions. So the real payoff is, well, I'll make better informed decisions, so then I'll make better returns on my own investments. And while I'm going that way, then we'll just share everything together. I'll share with you what I'm learning. In fact, why don't we pull them on the interviews live and ask them together? And then I found we created a private Discord community. And then I figured out, well, shoot, a lot of times they'll stay after with me, and then we can jump into the private Discord and they share even more information in the private Discord that they wouldn't share publicly.
The inverse, instead of having inverse Kramer, we'll do inverse Paul Barron.
Let's just see how that performs. The inverse, because Kramer's got a pretty good track record now. He's consistent. Now he's pretty consistent in being wrong, but that consistency level is amazing. Will Paul Barron be consistent in being wrong? I don't know. He does make some good calls. So, and he's made some really terrible ones. And I didn't see a lot of that till recently.
Wow.
And I'm just like, oh, he was actually bullish on Veve and talking about Veve when almost no one was. And, but yeah, he turned sour on it right at the bottom. And, one of his reasoning is, oh, the sentiment indicator isn't high enough anymore. Well, let me ask you, if you have a sentiment indicator that tracks, say, Bitcoin, when Bitcoin falls off the sentiment indicator, is that buy time for Bitcoin or is it sell time?
Obviously, that'd be the good buy time. Oh, I love that.
Only if you like buying cheap. If you like buying expensive, then follow the sentiment indicator. But if you're trying to buy cheap, which is how investors make money, buy low and then sell high, because let's just make a guess. What is the sentiment indicator on Bitcoin saying at these levels? Is it saying, oh my God?
Did I lose him? Oh, I think I lost him.
But is it time to sell? Well, only if you like selling at bottoms.
Agreed.
I don't like selling at bottoms. I'm weird that way because apparently 95% of people do.
So we've been at it for a little more than an hour. That was about a month ago. Same price as Veve, about a month ago. But we're not at the price that OMI was most of. I think it was 00055, and now we're at like 00063. So I mean, we're close, and which is why I like this as an accumulation zone, and I'm hoping it stays here for another couple of weeks at least. Which it likely will. But I don't know. There's no liquidity. Like I had Rolex on a couple weeks ago, and he's just like, when I go into it, because he has almost no OMI. Like when I go into it, I'm gonna get like 100 million OMI, and he's gonna go soon. And I had to tell him, I was like, listen, be advised, you can't just buy 100 million OMI. You're gonna pump the price like 50%
on yourself.
Yeah, so it only really just takes one stubborn whale to go in and put in not even $100,000, like $50,000, which is a normal buy order on any other place, to super pump the price.
Yeah, it can be hard, and I get the problem people are facing. It's especially frustrating when you're watching. Yes, some other things have pumped recently, right? So Miria is one I'm very big on, and Miria's pumped. And if you're not in it, Randy had this perfect analogy. You see your friends doing well and it's pumped, and you want to be able to say you're doing well too. And it's frustrating. So the temptation is to sell what's underperforming and roll into what's performing. And though I think Miria has another leg up, it might go the other way. So yeah, this is a better sell point to me than a buy point. This was an amazing buy point, but most people weren't prepared to understand this as a buy point. They are now, but now they can't rewind time and go back to here. So they're forced with a decision: do I buy here, or do I sell my OMI and buy here, or what do I do? And though I suspect, I think the chances are good enough that it has another leg up, that I haven't taken a bunch of profits on Miria. I have rolled a little bit of Miria into a few other things that were massively down, but I have greater sell orders in at a greater extent if it takes another leg up, which I suspect it will, but I can't. I'm a magic crystal ball. I don't know for sure that it does. Millionaire Tees wants me to talk about Caspa. I don't know. Let's jump over to Randy. On Wednesdays, I can definitely look at Caspa with Paul on it. And we looked at Caspa recently. Earth 2, I mean, we do have one of the best experts on Earth 2 on the stream. So I'm curious to hear Randy talk about Earth 2 and what's new on that and where that's at.
Yeah, so we've had some really good news recently with this. Originally in the Essence draft paper that they had, they're like, hey, listen, we want to have 5 billion circulating supply. We believe that is likely fair for the amount of demand that we're going to have and what we want the market cap to be and the price to be. And they've done it to where they've released a certain amount. You can really only get if you're playing the game, and you can go and see the circulating supply right now. There's less than 200 million out there. And then they said, well, hold on, we actually don't want the price to be super cheap. They don't want it to be like a fraction of a cent, kind of like OMI is right now. So they, in their white paper that they're going to release, likely they're aiming for the end of this year. Within the next couple months, they will release that white paper of exactly how much is going to be in the full diluted circulating supply, how much is going to be left back, and it's not going to be 5 billion. It's going to be likely a billion, at least less than that, or maybe billions less than that. We're just not sure yet. It's going to detail all the utility, even past what we have now. Outfitting it with mentars, going in and buying other stuff with it, jewels, and they're going to go and say within a quarter of releasing the white paper, it will be on a couple of exchanges. So they're really putting it right towards the bull run, or right towards the halving, I should say. And they've had updates every couple months, but now they're really starting. I mean, even now they have 150,000 active users each month, which is absolutely blows away Decentraland and Sandbox. And the amount of activity in the secondary market, it's not all buying and selling land. That's a good part of it, but it is going and raiding. So if you have, whenever you have land, you get a certain amount of ether, and you can go and collect your ether each day. If you don't, your land can get raided, and some of that ether is lost and stolen. So that really incentivizes people to go and collect their ether each day, and you transform that into essence, into the crypto token. So it really goes and makes you want to go and do that. So it's super exciting. I don't know if I've ever, Randy, you saw the pictures that I posted in that group, right? Of Earth 2. So
I have a hard time keeping up. That group is so active, and it's not even that big of a group. It is so active that sometimes I have a busy day, and then I come in and I look at it, and there's 180 messages I missed, and I'm just like overwhelmed, and I can't even go through the 180. I just go to the bottom and be like, okay, what can I catch up on?
So we don't know what Veveverse is going to look like in Unreal Engine 5. We know what it's going to look like in Unity Engine. So I'll say right now, Earth 2 has the prettiest metaverse. It is incredible to look at, and right from the get-go, you have that gamification because they bought the drone video game from the developers. They will release that for free. Now, when are we going to be able to fully use that? I don't know, but they have this idea in the warring world where, hey, if you're part of this warring world and you're going battling other people, you can lose your stuff. You can get your stuff rocked. Or you could go and be like, hey, I don't want to be part of this warring world where no one can attack me, and that's fine. You won't lose anything. You won't risk losing any of your tools or assets, but you won't get any of the privileges or advantages of being in there either. So it's going to be like chaos mode and then, non-chaos mode. But that's some of the, and they also announced that they're going to start paying YouTubers if they make a video about it. And on my Earth 2 playlist, I have 367 videos that I've made previously, and it will be retroactive. So I'm ready for this. But likely within the next 6 months, you see Essence on, some smaller exchanges. But they have a guy at Binance that works for them. So, he was previously at Binance, and he's there now. So it's likely going to be in the big one within a year. Even if they just go with, even if it is they go with fully diluted circulating supply or fully diluted market cap, and we have, like, let's say 4 billion in the full circulating supply, even though most of that would not be released. I think combined, you had Decentraland and Sandbox had a combined value of, I think, 17 billion, and Earth 2 has so many more active accounts, and this is in a bear market. And again, the amount of transactions that happen, multiple transactions per second on that, even if it just matches that, which I think it should do a lot more. Okay, well, what is, the 4 billion? Okay, times 4, we'll get it to 16. That's, you're looking at $4 per essence. I have 40,000, so I'm very happy. There's some people that have like hundreds of thousands of essence. Some people have like 1 million, because they put in like 20, 30 grand when it was brand new. So yeah, so Earth 2 is very exciting, and I can't wait.
I think land assets in video games that get traction. Obviously, I've got some history in that. Axie Infinity was the first to do anything like that. And they only did so incredibly well because Axie Infinity did well. But I'm extremely fascinated. I don't touch a lot of NFT projects. The ones I touch, I'm looking for land assets in games that might get traction, or metaverses that might get traction. And I have a whole bunch spread across a whole bunch of those. I look for first IPs on huge name IPs, therefore Veve. They have so many first appearances. Do I collect every new thing that comes out on Veve? No, not at all. I buy very specific comics. I want first appearances of major characters. Sometimes I buy like the commons for like $1.80 or $2 worth of gems and stuff, just to increase my master collector points. But like what I really stock up on is first appearances. First appearances of, like, that's why the Todd McFarlane I thought was so important. And that's why some other first appearances, some of the collectibles like Hulk and some other ones, are really important. Boba Fett, Darth Vader, I think, are really big names that people are sleeping on. That's cool. That other project I was talking about that you can take my course on if you want the alpha on that. Major IP, first appearances, that nobody's talking about right now, but it's all about that. So if you're going to be in the NFT space, I don't care so much about profile pic NFT stuff. That pattern is too hard to recognize. There's too many projects competing for that. It's too hard to tell what might do well and what won't. There's a million copycat projects, and most of them haven't done well, and just a handful have. I don't deal in that space. I look for top intellectual property that's moving to the blockchain, like first edition comics, like Marvel #1. It's not like I'm a genius. It was a Marvel #1 comic book, and people were disappointed they didn't get the secret rare, so they were dumping the commons for like $2. And I was like, maybe I'm wrong on this, but I think these are going to be genius in the future. It's Marvel #1, so I was just stocking up on it. Am I genius? No, it's just first appearance for massive intellectual property. Everybody's undervaluing it because they don't realize how big this could be. Then it starts to capture that value, goes up massively. Is that pattern very hard to recognize? No, I did that NBA Top Shots, did the same thing, and people are like, oh, because I'm like, well, basketball cards did really well, and these are even better than basketball cards because it shows the whole slam dunk. It shows the pass to them as they dribble around everyone and dunk the whole thing. But I don't have any pattern to see how video moments would do. But NBA Top Shots 2020 made sense to me, right? So yeah, it went up 180x from there. Cool. Yeah, so massive intellectual property. Land, that's what Axie Infinity was about. It's land. It's land that has a use case that can generate some kind of passive income. So what is Randy talking about? Earth 2 land. What does it have? Some kind of passive income generation. Do we know if their two will survive? No, we don't. Will it probably make it into the coming bull run? I don't see why not. Will it make it after that? I don't know. Probably, possibly, maybe not. But that's not the time horizon that's interesting to me. Another big one, alluvium. I own a whole lot of land in that. What is that? Land related to massive intellectual property. Do I even love the passive income generation on it? No, I can say I don't love it. I did misunderstand it. I thought that all of the fuel would be generated by the land. Turns out that only 5% of the fuel is generated by the land. The rest is magically appeared by the algorithm that when you sell your fuel, it essentially takes one fuel and multiplies it times 19. Most of that value will go to the token holders. I didn't understand that when I was first buying the land, and I was really upset when I later learned, because Kieran, one of the team members, said all of the fuel that's generated will be generated by landholders. He's not 100% correct on that statement. That is not factually conveying what the truth is. He didn't say, well, there will be an algorithm that then 19x's the amount of fuel in order so that that money can essentially go to the ILV token holders. So later when I learned that, I wasn't extremely excited, but oh well. It's when I bought Axie Infinity Land, the use case was this abstract. We think down the road as Axies travel along your space that they're just going to drop Luna onto your land, but we can't say for sure. We don't know. We don't even have the game developed yet. So the use case was pretty arbitrary and not very quantifiable and fixed. And yet still, because the game did really well, the land, even though the use case still was not in place at all, the land did tremendously well. And I suspect that'll be the same case with alluvium, that as the game does well, the land will speculatively go up massively, which is why I haven't sold all my land and rolled it into the ILV token. Because even though like I felt like burned a little bit, the truth is the land had lost very little value from what I'd paid for it. And the token had come down like 80% from what the token price had been at. So it actually did me a favor buying the land. And I could have just sold the land and got even more of the ILV token. But I was like, man, I'm going to hold on to this land. I think it'll speculatively go crazy.
I heard it was a fun game too, which is not what Axie had. I heard Axie was fairly boring, and it still did that. And I hear that alluvium is really fun, and it's enjoyable to play. It's like, oh, this is a new, this is a new era.
Yeah, hi Rain. I mentioned DFK Definity Kingdoms a week ago. They also have land aside from NFTs. Yes. So in Playthrough Games, sounds like Playthrough Games has probably his own channel, and so he might have really good information on this. A lot of it is like there are a ton of games that I'm unfamiliar out there. The number of blockchain games coming is tremendous, and I'm having a hard time wrapping my mind around all of them. I tried about 9 to 12 months ago to sit down and play a bunch of these games that were coming out, and I found my tolerance for playing video games is way the hell less than I wish it was. And I was shocked. I was like, man, when I was a kid, my dream was to play video games for a living and get paid for it somehow. And I'm like, that's kind of what I could do, is literally, because it gives me good research playing all these games. And I found I didn't love playing all these games and exploring, especially since most of them don't have walkthrough videos on them yet to understand what's going on. So I felt like a beta tester all the time trying to play these games, and it was extremely frustrating, and I hated my life. I was like, bear markets are boring, but this is miserable and I can't keep doing it. So my hat's off to those that not only are doing it, but find enjoyment from that. One of my Rainmaker family members, Game Trove, we had a lot of talks because he wanted to start a YouTube channel like a year ago when we were talking about it. And I was like, there is some real value in just playing a lot of these games and demonstrating these games and giving your analysis of the gameplay on it. And that's what he's been doing. And so maybe Playthrough Games, it's the same thing. I mean, given the name, that's what you would think. Really, that's a good name too. So yes, Big A says some decent looking new games. Shrapnel. I did interview that team, and that was fascinating. Shrapnel wasn't on my radar prior to this, and they had reached out to see if I would cover them, and I actually kind of gave my default answer. Look, I cover very little. You have to show me that you're substantive before I'll even entertain it. And they're like, okay, well, let's talk. And I was like, okay, but just know if I don't really like your game, like I'm not going to cover it at all. And if I really, really love your game, I will cover you for free. If I pretty much love your game, we might work out some kind of sponsorship and I will disclose that it's sponsored. And then I talked to them and so I was like, I really freaking love your game. So I'm going to cover you for free. But most people don't even make it through the hurdles. I'm so picky on what I'll cover. Most of the time it ends up that I'll just cover them for free completely because the threshold is so high that I'll even cover them. So yeah, it ended up being good. And I was like, oh gosh, you actually have a really good game here. And it was weird how that came about because a lot of companies that reach out to me, it just like, if I do 10 minutes of research, I'm like, no, I won't. Sorry, I can't bring you on the channel. I'm not even interested in learning any more about your project. Because there's a lot of crap. And it doesn't mean like the people have bad intentions. I'm just looking for higher level backgrounds in business or good connections. Like one that I kind of missed for a little while is what is it? It's a gaming project that one of my community members brought to me, Games for a Living. And I didn't hear they launched on Engine Starter. I mean, I could have freaking participated in the launch. And yeah, they've gone up a whole bunch, but now their tokens are going to start vesting. I'm actually praying that the price comes down because I'm not going to load up on it after it's already gone like 8x. But Games for a Living is top gaming industry experts from other companies that have come in to form that. So you're talking about top level background, built a lot of games before coming in. And it's not like their price is too bad. I can pull it up, but that's who I want to talk to. And Shrapnel met that threshold. So again, would I make a lot of money by covering all these projects that offer me sponsorships? Yes. Would it defeat the whole purpose of my channel? Yes. So I don't. So it was 0.5 cents. It's now up to 3.9 cents. But even the IDO was even cheaper than this. I don't remember what the launchpad price was with Engine Starter, but it was cheaper than this bottom here at 0.5 cents. So it's gone almost 8x from 0.5 cents. OMI dip continues. Should we be so lucky that like yeah, cool. Thank you. Thank you, Paul Barron Network, for selling some more. Just kidding.
Yeah. If it does what it, well, not a perfect storm, but a nice little storm could be coming where it hits that that double triple bottom right as soon as I get some funds in like 3 weeks. That would be great. I'll get up to 180 and I will be a little bit happier, a little bit closer to my goal.
Yes. Yeah, there was an interview I did earlier today. If you missed that interview, check out that interview with Definity. Here's the token chart on it. In fact, here's the full chart. Now, the bottom was literally, unfortunately, back in August of last year when it bottomed. It was 1/10 this price, but it's been a pretty slow increase in their current market cap, even though it's not reflected here. Their current market cap, in fact, their fully diluted market cap is only 3.4 million. CoinGecko actually tracks this a bit better, which is rare. Usually CoinMarketCap has a little bit better information. Check out that interview with Manu from Definity, and CoinMarketCap says CoinGecko says the market cap is 3.2 million and the fully diluted market cap is 3.6 million. So most of their tokens, according to this, are in circulation. Circulating supply of 153 million, total supply of 171 million. Cool. Definitely check that out, that interview with Manu. Somebody asked about Star Atlas. I have not checked in on Star Atlas. Now, everyone was going crazy on Star Atlas, and I wanted desperately to be able to buy Star Atlas at the pre-sale. The problem was I didn't have the connections to get into the pre-sale of Star Atlas, and I was not going to pay these prices on Star Atlas when it went up to like 23 cents. It's now at a really attractive price. I have not kept touch, so it did pump from its bottom. It's only up 2x though, but it is one to start really looking at for those that are interested. Now, the market cap's still pretty high at 46 million. They have a second token. What's their other token called? I forget. I don't remember.
I'm not sure either.
I'm cautious on Gala, Big A. I don't like the decisions that they're making. So there's this old model of blockchain gaming that worked very well last bull market because there was not enough competitors there. And Gala was one of the few that had been in the space during the bear market and were well prepared for the bull market, which is sell your NFTs, your legendaries for $12,000. Then another tier at like $6,000, and then your commons for like $800. That you're required to have these NFTs in order to play our game, and you can earn X amount of tokens per day, and more if you hold the legendary than if you hold the common. And so it worked because the amount of people were flush with cash, but I hate that idea. Are the general gamers ever going to play a game like that? Only if they're flush with cash because they just had a major bull market and they don't have better options. I don't see them changing from that methodology, and I don't see that methodology survives. And so Gala has this new big bloated team, and they're struggling to survive, and there are lawsuits between the founders. And I think the model of the future looks more like what Axie Infinity did. And Axie Infinity took a very different approach than Gala. And they said, okay, we did our initial Axie sale, our origin Axie, and they did like a Neo sale or whatever it's called in like Japan. And I think a total of 3 rounds of Axie sales. And they made some money there. Then they did their land sale, which they only sold a quarter of their land. And they raised a bunch of money with that. And they had enough funds to hopefully survive the bear market. And they were kind of struggling for a while there on whether they would survive. There were 4 team members working hard, I think out of Vietnam. And I once saw an interview with them, and I was like, yeah, I don't know if these guys will make it. Well, then Animoca Brands came in and bought some equity in their company and gave them better access to amazing connections. And really, I think not only saved them, but turned them into a massively big company. And Axie Infinity became huge, but they took a very novel approach. They said, we already sold these things. So if we keep doing these sales, that's not going to be our model. What we're going to do is hope that our marketplace gets enough value that we can make a small amount on the transaction that take place. So they only make 4.25% as a transaction tax on transactions that happen within their network. So they built their own blockchain. They got off of ETH because ETH fees were coming too astronomical. So they built the Ronin network, and they would take a transaction fee of 4.25%. Well, they got so much traction. And so what that encouraged was that the breeders would make the money, and the people earning Smooth Love Potion would make the money. So the people earning Smooth Love Potion would sell to the breeders. The breeders would then use the Smooth Love Potion to generate new Axies with really good qualities. And the breeders and the Smooth Love Potion people were making the money, and they just collected a small fraction as that changed hands. And the economic model was extremely successful, and they made over $1 billion in revenues. And trust me, every game maker noticed that, but apparently Gala did not. Gala's like, no, we like our model of $12,000 for our legendary, which you'll never make a return on investment in. And so as of 6 months, it seemed like Gala's methodology was, well, we're going to continue with that model. However, we will make a disclaimer that you are stupid if you buy these as an investment. You're right. I would feel stupid if I believed in you, was what I took home from that. And I don't like feeling stupid, so I'm having a hard time believing in you, was my take home from that. Now, could I be wrong on Gala? They turn the ship around and have an amazing future. I would love that for them. They were a pioneer in this space, and they really proved that blockchain gaming can have a place in the future. But I can tell you, making poor decisions, even if you're the first in a thing, you get punished, and they've had some poor decisions going wrong with them. Like, one of the things I did not love that they did, they said, hey, in our new game coming out, you can buy, like, it's kind of like a metaverse type game. I forget the name of it, but it's like, we're going to sell you stables. And with a stable, you can essentially make horses, and you'll be able to sell those horses and make money. And they sold those stables for not a cheap price. And you know what they came out later with? We're going to do a horse sale. So all the people who bought stables are like, what the F? I thought we were the ones going to be able to sell horses, and now you're selling a whole bunch of horses. You didn't tell us that when we invested in these stables. And it seemed like their answer is, if you buy your NFTs as an investment, you're stupid. So I'm just like, Gala, not hot on my radar. Maybe they turn around. Maybe they make better decisions in the future. I would love that for them. Am I buying it? No, not at all.
I'd be very salty if that happened.
I would love to see them turn around. Yeah, cool. But yeah, wouldn't you be salty? Wouldn't you lose some faith? That's like,
oh, I'd be nettled.
Yeah. And so I missed the boat with Gala. I didn't hear about them until they pumped to astronomical prices. I do not chase green candles. Was I frustrated that I hadn't heard about them at all? Yes. I was like, how did I miss this? I'm super interested in the blockchain space. And when they launched, you couldn't buy the token. You could only buy the note. And I can't say that was a model that I really understood very well, but I would have invested $5,000 in a node, and I would have figured out how to run it and everything. Because at one point, I think from the tokens generated every month, I think it was printing off like $10,000 or $20,000 worth of tokens per month at the top. And the value of the nodes, if you wanted to buy a node, went all the way to like $340,000 if you're buying them from Gala. So I don't chase candles I already missed. Yes, their prices bottomed. Could it go up from here? It probably will. But if they don't turn the ship around, I can't see how it does as well as some of these other ones that are making better decisions.
Yeah, this is why I'm not 100% worried with, or I'm not worried at all with Veve and OMI. I don't think they'd ever do anything crazy like that. Hey, buy this, and then suddenly they go and they give you, oh man, I would be salty. I can't get over that they do that.
Yeah, the stable, and then they later sell horses. Oh
Yeah.
man, and one of, so there was this channel, what was his name? But he covered Gala. Like he really started his career covering Axie Infinity when the prices were high. So essentially when I was selling, and he started his YouTube channel covering that on-chain gaming. And so he covered Axie Infinity when prices were way high, and his YouTube channel shot up past mine, like, and then he started covering Gala right when prices were high. But he did invest in Gala when it was brand new. He bought a bunch of notes at like pre-sale price. So I can't fault him for that. I don't know that he's covering Gala then. But like he is covering Gala when Gala was at record highs, which is a good way to grow your YouTube channel. I think he grew to 80 or 100,000 subscribers in not very much time. And he is entertaining to watch. But then like, you know, he had a sponsorship from Gala. And when I give him credit, when he was covering some of the stuff that they were doing wrong, all of a sudden his sponsorship with them ended. And then kind of like it went sour with them. And, you know, I listened to what he said. I feel like, yeah, it was important that he covered the whole stable thing. And I don't know that the Gala team took that very well.
Yeah, there's that's also kind of another, I guess, litmus test that I have when other companies want me to cover them. And if they want to pay me in their native token that has like $4,000 in daily volume, I would. And knowing that I would just like dump it, I was like, okay, this is not good for your token holders. This is not good. Like I'm not covering this. Yeah, so that's another litmus test I have. If they are going to give you a payment in the form of token, knowing that you'll sell it, I was like, oh, this is, yeah, don't want to dump on them.
Yeah, and it is hard to monitor. Well, it's kind of an integrity issue with the YouTube channel, right? So the incentives are aligned for you to take money from companies that you wouldn't buy yourself, because that's how you can make money, because it is kind of a vow of poverty to cover things when they're down. And poverty as far as you won't make much revenues from YouTube and from sponsorships by covering projects when they're undervalued. That's okay. My my thing was that I make my money from my own investments, my YouTube channel. I want to run this experiment because I'm already retired. Though it's nice to get paid very well for your time, there's principles that I won't sacrifice. Secondly is like, I wanted to run this experiment of what if I did cover things when they're undervalued, and I gave my cases as to why, and that people can make their own informed decision. I have to suspect that as people really understand these principles that I've come to understand over the past 25 years, well, they're going to become really damn good at identifying things that are undervalued, whether they're buying what I'm buying or not. These principles hold true. They're going to get really good, and then they make a whole bunch of money. Nobody's really done that before. What could that turn into? The truth is, I don't know. It's exciting to see. I know what this bull run is going to bring, and I know a bunch of my audience, what a bunch of them are holding and what they're telling me they're holding. And I think, gosh, some of them are going to end up with tremendous gains. And that's pretty exciting to me. I don't know what that leads to. This is an experiment nobody's really done, right? Because all the incentives are aligned for you to pay your bills or whatever through shilling stuff that you don't believe in, and by covering things when they've massively pumped. So we'll see.
Speaking of things pumping and, four-year cycles, Wes brings up a pretty decent point, I think, where he says that there won't be a big bear market after Bitcoin ETFs get approved. That'll stabilize Bitcoin price for the long term. I think that's correct. I think that, yeah, things dumping by 80 and Bitcoin dumping by 80%. This might be the last time that's happened. I don't, as big institutional money gets in, do you think that it is likely that Bitcoin, like the last few times, will dump 80% in the next bear?
Institutional money is usually smarter money, and it's retail that causes the massive fluctuations. Right. So institutions tend to be less emotional and smarter about it. So they have overbought mortgage-backed securities. We saw that in 2006 and 2007, right? In 2005. So and then like those crashed hard. So I agree that the chance is high for a super cycle. What it looks like after that, I can't say I understand. There's two paths that it goes. One is whenever the pendulum swings so far to one way, it almost always swings so far the other way. So if it does go to like 600,000, and Kathy Woods is right, might it then swing to like 80,000? It could. Now, should it? No. Was 600,000 possibly an overvaluation? Probably. But the pendulum swings too far. So I don't know if it'll probably swing back. How much it swings back is the thing that I can't answer. And truth is, the dollar will at some point disintegrate. And I don't know whether that's in 10 months or 10 years or 50 years. But it continues to look worse. And when the dollar disintegrates, well, then Bitcoin's value will probably be permanently established when it disintegrates. But is that 10 months from now? Is it 10 years from now? Or is it 100 years from now? I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard. I was hearing for, well, I was super into like Alex Jones in like the mid 2000s when there was like 12 YouTube channels and one of them had to be, his clips are on there. And say like, oh, the dollar is going to zero. The government's putting it into oblivion. And so, buy gold and silver. And I was like, okay, that kind of makes sense. It made sense at the time. And I think like the past 10 years, I think silver has gone up, I think like 20 cents over the last 10 years. So it hasn't really done much. But it's hard to think that the dollar will disintegrate as it's been, dying like my whole life and your whole life. When is that, now on the call? Because whenever people panic, again, things flow into the dollar when they throw out of crypto, out of real estate. People kind of feel safe there. They hold their dollars. It kind of makes it seem almost impossible, especially now it's kind of tied to oil. What do you think would be the final nail in the coffin for the dollar?
Well, it might have entered the death spiral, but how long does it take to spiral? So I was listening to, I think, Tai Lopez talk about the Weimar Republic. And what was going on back then was, well, they were scared to hold these assets because these assets had massively pumped so much. So they sold their assets for cash, and a bunch of people were holding cash, but then the cash completely devalued and completely wrecked all these people holding cash. And maybe we're in that same situation, right? Because it's hard to want to buy real estate now, because real estate in some markets has 5x in like the past 10 years. And a 5x in real estate almost never happens. And so it's like, well, shoot, I don't want to buy real estate because it's 5x. And usually there has to be a big pullback. Okay, I don't want to buy stocks because stocks have run up tremendously. And usually there's massive pullbacks, and they've seen some pullback, but not massive pullbacks. What do I hold? Well, maybe I'll hold cash. Maybe that's a good idea. But maybe it's like those holding the German currency, as then the German currency got printed to infinity and they lost all their wealth. So I can't say I know what the answer is. I think a bull run is coming next year. What I'm then going to hold, I don't know. I'll be wanting to cash out of crypto, but into what? Stable coins pegged to the US dollar? Maybe. Is there risk with that? Yes. There's risk with everything. I'll be buying some nice assets that will be paid off, like a really nice house. How ridiculous the house is depends on how ridiculous this bull market goes. Some ridiculous supercars. Why? It's called delayed gratification. I've delayed my gratification for a long time. There are many points in my life where I could have bought a Lamborghini and I didn't. Why? It was just too early. I wanted to keep those assets rolling the first time, and then a divorce happened, and then like I lost everything and then some. I was like, why didn't I buy that Lamborghini? Frick. Because now I'm divorced and I didn't even get the pleasure, and I don't have those assets, and now I'm worth less than zero. Shoot, delayed my gratification too much. Well, then I had to start all over, rebuild again. And then I found crypto, and I'm like, okay, cool. But when I found crypto, my net worth was still negative. So when I started in 2017, I was still digging out from the divorce that happened in 2012. It was a deep pit from that divorce. So, yeah. Ooh. In 2021, I could have bought some nice toys and stuff. I didn't, because I wanted to roll it, because it's really the second cycle that makes you really wealthy. And you're thinking, oh yeah, if I made $2 or $3 or $4 million, I'd be rich. Are you?
It was quicker than you think.
After you pay your taxes, and then you buy a house, depending on the real estate market that you're in, and not even an extraordinary house, just an okay house for $1.2 million. And then you buy a Lamborghini. You buy like an entry-level Lamborghini for $100,000 used, and pay $10,000 when you have to like change the brakes and the oil and stuff. Really rich yet at those numbers? You're not. At 20, 30, 40 million, are you rich? Yes. Even in Canada, the US, and Europe, you are. Now, at 3 million in the Philippines, are you rich? You're rich. You're very rich. Yes.
I hope that we get there this next bull cycle. I mean, you'll definitely get there. You're in 10 different projects, all that stuff's going up.
I think your OMI is going to be really good. Like, I'm much more diversified, but I had a friend that went all in on Cardano last bull market, and I went about a third, maybe 30% of my portfolio in on Cardano. And Cardano alone made me over $1 million. But he went all in, and Cardano took off before everything. So everyone talks about, oh, should I sell what's not moving to what is? And I had to look at that question every day, because my friend's portfolio went like up way ahead of mine, because I was diversified in a whole bunch of things that hadn't pumped yet. And did that suck? Yes, it sucked. I was really excited for him. I was just like, well, shoot, I knew if I was going to go all in on something, Cardano would be the thing to go all in on, and I didn't. But I think this diversification thing is going to work out for me. But what I'm not going to do is sell a bunch of assets that are low to roll into something that just 15x'd. Yeah. I will not do it. So I'm happy for the part of my portfolio that 15x. That's cool. Did I wish it was a bigger percentage? Yes. Part of the reason so that I could diversify into things that hadn't moved at all, and Cardano had 15x. But I didn't even have that. I guess I could have with the 30% I had in Cardano. I chose to just keep it in Cardano and see where it went. And the rest of my portfolio caught up. So we ended up at about the same place, actually. And he went all in on something that 100x'd. from where he bought most of it at. And my portfolio ended up 100x from where I was. So we ended up at the same place, though. He sure got there faster.
Yeah. I guess that's the only issue that I have like PTSD from last time, when to sell. I mean, obviously I wouldn't sell it all at like 1 cent, but I think a small percentage would probably be beneficial, just to be like, okay, it's real. Benefit of having money is you're less tempted to sell this stuff. Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, it's a really good point.
The more you're diversified, it takes away that pressure, right? Because some part of your portfolio is probably doing okay. What sucks is when nothing that you own is running and yet your friends own a bunch that is running. That's painful, right? And it's not that you're not happy for them. You're still happy for them. You're just wishing you could be part of that happiness directly rather than just indirectly. So diversification helps with that. So we were talking the other day about whether diversification is even wise. And some people are like, if you're really good at this, why would you diversify? Because you're just spreading it out among so many baskets. Part of the reason I diversify is so that FOMO doesn't hit me as hard. Because when you're well diversified, you can be more strategic in that, oh my gosh, this just 5x. And this other thing that I really believe in is down by 60%. I'm going to sell what 5x or some of what 5x and roll it into what's down by 60%. And it allows you to make more strategic, unemotional decisions. That's why I'm diversified. Now, when I was newer in crypto, number one, I was just so new, I wasn't diversified. I did understand these principles about investing. I just didn't think they applied to crypto and how wrong I was. And as I was learning how much they applied to crypto, I was trying to diversify, but I was worth a whole lot less. I was still digging out from being broke from my divorce. So I didn't have the kind of money that I have this bull run to throw around. I was like $4,000 into Axie Infinity was a hell of a lot of money to me. It was a ton of money. It was a risk. My wife was like, yeah, what if we lose that? We might.
Got to risk it for the biscuit.
Yeah. So, I mean, that ended up making me a ton because though I sold it at 100x, I rolled into stuff at 3x is as best I can determine what happened with that money. Sometimes it kind of mixes together and it's hard to tell what came from what when you sold and when you bought. So that's about how it played out.
There's a couple of people that I do worry about. Someone actually called me as soon as the OMI went up, I think like 30% in like a couple days, I think over summer when we got that utility. Like, hey Randy, I know you are mostly got a good head on your shoulders, but I know you like to party. I know I can do this. Like when OMI goes up, and it will, don't go too crazy. And I was like, oh yeah, no, I don't think I would. But then I don't know. Did you ever have that issue of when he's like, oh, your net worth went from the 5 figures to the 7 figures, and he's like, oh, hey, there's a lot of open doors for me now. How'd you go and get not give in to the devil's demands?
Some of it was interesting. Like I'm grateful I don't like drugs at all. I actually did a gummy the other couple months ago. My cousin, I was visiting her and she's like, here, take this gummy. And I was like, okay. I did not like the experience. We went dancing and she's like, why aren't you dancing? Because I love dancing. I'm good at it. And, and she's really fun. She'd been telling all her friends like what a great dancer I was and everything. Right. And then I'm there and I'm sitting down and they're like, I'm dancing. I'm like, I don't want to. I feel weird. She's like, yeah, but the music's so good and we're having so much fun. Come join us. I was like, I don't care. I don't want to. And it made me so weird. And I was like, no, this is not for me. Like I had a pain prescription after I got rear-ended by a truck that wasn't paying attention like 25 years ago. It caused me some back issues for a little while. And I took the pain meds twice and I didn't like the disconnection. So there's no attraction in drugs for me there. What I do have a lot of delayed gratification. It took me a while to earn that back after going through that divorce, and all my delayed gratification got like my net worth went not only to zero, but like massively negative. And I was like, what was all that delayed gratification for? I felt burned. It took me a while to kind of build that back up. But in this last bull market, there was a weird thing that happened. I was like, gosh, I overshot what I thought I would hit by a lot. And I didn't expect to be where I'm at. And I didn't set any goals related to this. I had made some commitments to the YouTube channel, but I'm like, I didn't expect to be here. And gosh, I don't have any goals created this. I was like, I never have to work again. Oh, I expected with this to be able to pay off our house. And so like I had to fix new goals. I had to make new goals. I had to expand my vision of what was possible. Because yeah, I overshot what I thought I'd get to. My goal actually was to get to like, at the time where I was living, I had a mortgage that was about 330,000. So I thought if I got to 480,000 and I paid like capital gains tax and stuff, I'd be able to pay off the house and own that house outright. And at the top, I got to about 3 million. And I was like, wow, gosh, even if I'm just careful during the bear market, I put some money aside, I never have to work again because we'll have another bull market and I can roll most of this forward. And I was just actually caught off guard. And my wife is like, what's up with you? You're different. And I didn't know what it was. I was like, I'm trying to figure out what my new goals are. Yeah.
Those, I can't wait to start setting new goals. I mean, it'll likely be, it'll move from crypto and investing to, it'll just move towards charity goals and all that, which is fine. But yeah, that'll be different.
Man, what I realized about that is it's important for us to have a purpose that we're working towards. And so like I had this greater purpose of I want to teach these principles and help like the growing generation of crypto people coming in. And some people don't gravitate towards my message. They bounce right off because I'm not showing Lamborghinis and stuff now. And they think because I'm covering stuff when it's boring, that I'm just dumb. Cool. Maybe they're even right. Gone pretty well for me in the past, but the past performance is no indicator of future performance, just a clue. But it's not a guarantee. It is an indicator, but not a guarantee of future performance. And so, yes, will these principles work for other people? I don't see why they won't. I didn't invent any of these principles. I learned them from other people. And so this experiment, I think, is going to turn out quite well. This experiment of teaching it from a YouTube channel, which nobody really does, this method and approach. And I think the audience is going to benefit really good. And that became a bigger part of my focus, as well as I moved. I have a friend that does financial analysis or financial coaching, and he's really, really, really good at this. And he shared with me a principle that made so much sense. And he talks about your financial water level, that everyone has a financial water level. And what's interesting is when your financial water level gets exceeded, you will actually spend back down to that financial water level. But when your financial water level gets below that, you will actually work your tail off to get it back up to that financial water level. So some people's financial water level is literally zero. Some of them, their financial level is owing $5,000. Some people, their financial water level is $10,000 in their bank account, and that's like their threshold. But you can, by conscious effort, move that financial water level up. And essentially, I didn't know how to explain it in words that were explainable, but what I was doing was moving my threshold up. And okay, wow, I vastly exceeded my financial water level. Okay, I don't want to touch any of that money because I just don't want to spend it. I want to keep it invested. I want to keep my living simple. I still drive actually a very modest vehicle, and I want to keep it rolling to the next cycle. And I want to just live off of meaningful amounts. So yeah, I took a few vacations, but really kept my own spending more modest. My wife, I didn't prep her for keeping her spending more modest. I could have done better at that. Don't always talk to your wife about, hey baby, we're millionaires. She might think, okay, I can go out and spend millions of dollars now. So be careful with that conversation. There were some unintentional hurdles that I learned and grew from that came about because of that, because I wasn't spending lots, but that doesn't mean there wasn't more spending going on than I was comfortable with. It just wasn't happening by me, we'll just say. But yeah, so financial water level, I was growing my financial water level of what my number is. So I've been trying to grow that to over 40 million and then really 100 million, because then you're like essentially done, right? And then you can just spend your time, and done, all that means is you spend more time on what you're really passionate about. I've always been passionate about this idea of, I think the education system in US, Canada, Europe is crap.
Preach.
So, how is a way that you can create a better educational environment where you can teach people about success principles? And I used to think about this problem all the time 10 and 15 years ago. Isn't that kind of what we're doing now? I mean, it's very relevant. I mean, because what are we in crypto anyway, but early stage venture capital investors? Because in order to get a lot of your life right, it is helpful when you get your money in order. So if you learn to get your money in order, guys, we often think about three things, right? So better success with women, better success with our career, and better success with health. Those are the three things. When you get money right, you still have to work at it. Just because you have money does not mean you will get women without paying for them. And if you're paying for them, you're doing it the wrong way. So how do you getting your money right though can put you in a place that you can afford the education to learn how to get women who want you not for your money, because women that want you for your money, you don't want that situation. And then third is getting your health right. Well, that's easier when you have money. So if you help people take care of learning how to become an early stage venture capital investor in the Web3 and they do really well financially, that sets them up for being able to take care of the other aspects. And so I realized over the last couple of years that I'm already working on my passion. I don't need to create some school. This is my passion. This crypto space is what I'm passionate about, and this is what I'm good at. So I didn't even realize I was already living out what I was passionate about. Because reforming the educational system, you would have to get rid of teachers unions in the US. Well, good luck with that, because they don't want the system to change. You would have to go to a voucher system, which many people have tried, because then that will punish the schools that are underperforming and reward the schools that are overperforming. Well, teachers unions want nothing to do with that, because then you would have to be able to fire bad teachers, and they don't want that. So reforming the education system, that's wrought with a bunch of hurdles. What you can do is create an education system that people can pay for really inexpensive prices, but those who really want the knowledge will go out and get it.
I live with a teacher, and I was asking her the other day what she thinks of tenure. She's a new teacher; she doesn't have it yet. And I'd asked her, okay, well, some tenure can make schools look like they're distinguished. They have a bunch of these teachers that have accomplished all these tasks. But in my experience, when I was younger, tenured teachers taught like Jimmy Kimmel, and it was just awful. And teachers that have lost their passion decades ago are still teaching just to get that pension. And
Yeah.
I don't know how to remedy that. Like that's
It misaligns incentives, right? So it takes away their incentives to work hard, because now you almost can't fire them. So they don't have an incentive to try hard anymore. And so then they're just coasting until they get that pension, and that destroys incentives and misaligns incentives. And therefore their performance is generally poor. It's not poor in every case, because there's a small percentage that will continue to do well no matter what the incentives are. That's why government workers generally are terrible. Why? Because the incentives are all wrong.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's
Cool.
that's why you have a lot of toxic leadership in the military, because all the really super smart ones, they get in, they get out, and the ones that kind of are afraid to get out or they've never done anything else, they stay. And their idea of PTing is just running or rucking or doing whatever, and they injure their airmen and they injure everyone, and that's bad times.
Yeah, I can understand that. Being in the military, I was like, look, I am really glad for militaries that protect their countries, and it was really an honor to serve. And I learned a lot of things, got a lot of amazing things out of it. And I was also very happy to be done with my agreement. And they're like, are you going to re-up? You could retire in 12 more years, because I did 8 years. Most of it just passive time, 2 of it active duty for training. And I was like, oh no. And they're like, you can retire in 20 years. I was like, I hope I can retire in 20 years with an actual serious retirement, right? And they're like, well, you could get medical benefits for the rest of your life at retirement age. And I was like, that's appealing. I mean, they're bad medical benefits, but they are medical benefits.
Wow.
So I hope to provide my own retirement by then that is far more substantial. But I don't know. Yes, I could continue for 12 more years and have a military retirement. I'm going to forego that though, because I don't like people telling me what to do at all minutes of the day. That's frustrating.
Yeah, that sucks. And especially unless you're an officer and you're in for a bit longer than 20 years, even after you retire, you're still gonna have to work.
Yes.
And I was like, this is not I'm not doing this. Like this, you know.
It's an okay retirement. Like my father actually pulled as a military, and he retired as an officer, and most of his time was just reserves. And so, like, it's actually pretty decent. And his medical benefits, like, he gets all these prescriptions and stuff for free, and he gets all his visits and X-rays and stuff for free. I'm like, that's cool, you know. And it's good that the military takes care of people that put 25 years in. Holy cow! I just wasn't willing to go that long with people telling me what to do with every waking minute of my day. No way. Even just being reserves time, I was like, I hate going for drill week, and I hate that I hate it. I did end up getting a job within that I really, really loved. They put me in charge of their pre-basic training. So it was the failure rate at basic training at the time was like 35%. So 65%
Really?
of the people they were sending to basic training did not make it out of basic training. And they're like, this is disastrous numbers. Now, it was a medical unit. So, like, a lot of these people are like, yeah, I want to be a combat medic or I want to be a nurse. And then they go into basic training. They're like, man, I wasn't expecting this to be so hard. And they would fail out. So they had me teach the pre-basic training course. So I had to think in my mind, what are all the hurdles, the misaligned expectations of what people go into? And this is actually what I'm good at in life, is how to prepare people mentally for success. Because I think about those patterns all the time. That's the same thing I really do in the crypto space. What do you think I do with my YouTube channel? I've been informing my audience how bad the bear market is going to suck so they don't get washed out during the bear market. And guess what? Some people have still failed because though they listened to me, they weren't prepared for it and it did wash them out. But a much larger percentage than normal stuck around. Cool. Well, in pre-basic training, numbers went to this. We went to a 92% success rate. So from a 65% success rate to a 92% success rate, they were super happy. And they're just like, you can have this job and keep this job as long as you want. So I actually liked that job. They left me alone. I held my whole space in the attic that I was able to take all the new recruits up and train them. And they pretty much left me alone. And I was a sergeant at the time, so I pretty much got to do my own thing. And I did like that. But I was like, 12 more years. I don't know. I'm done. Cool. Any more crypto stuff? Anything else on your mind before we wrap up?
I think we I mean, went a little over 2 hours. I think we definitely covered a lot. So you've been on my channel a couple times. We've done things like this. Have I ever had you on the channel for like a podcast? I know it's we've had stuff like this, but like an interview, like, yeah, we cover crypto, yeah, we cover VV and the stuff a lot, but like where I ask you questions about aliens and deepest, darkest secrets and love.
Oh, no, that would be fun. Yeah, we can talk about fried subjects. I will not be taking a gummy prior to that. Unfortunately, that experience was not what I hoped out of that. But
We'll do
be
that
fully
another time.
sober with my Rockstar, or I like those Ghost energy drinks. So this is what I'm always drinking. I like my fruit punch, 0 sugar. And what's funny enough is the yellow can, because of the green screen, when I drink like a Ghost energy drink, the green screen like blocks out the yellow and it looks like a black can. It's pretty funny.
That's
So
dope.
that's what I'm drinking all the time. This is my crack cocaine. It's called the Rockstar energy drink. And it's probably about as good for me as crack cocaine.
I do have one small thing to talk to you about, but it'll be like a minute after we're done. We'll just stay on the lecture.
Cool. Everyone, thank you for joining us for the fun discussion. My apologies, we didn't get to all the comments. I appreciate it. Everyone, in fact, some of my, like Mark Hune, it was so good for me to be able to meet him. It was really cool. And didn't get Jordan Reese commented a bunch in here, and a bunch of comments we missed. And I appreciate everyone for the very, very active engagement. Obviously, this is something that we're all passionate about. Like, and why I want to do this stream is Randy's recognized patterns. This is how the pattern usually plays out, and it washes out a bunch of people at the bottom. And it's not surprising to me that people like Paul Barron get washed out too. And they unfortunately take a lot of people with them. And that's just the pattern. Do I have a magic crystal ball to know that OMI will survive from here? No. Would I say the chances are very good that it survives from here? Very good that it survives from here.
I've never sold. I will only keep buying.
Yep. I know. I've just kept adding to my position as well. Thanks so much, everyone, for joining us. We'll